Yet another stumbling block in Canada getting a trade agreement done with the U.S. is the so-called cultural exemption clause. So how about we just kill this redundant clause, something that is far more political than cultural? As the trade talks between Canada and the U.S. lurch forward, Justin Trudeau is now insisting that he will drop the deal if it doesn't include a so-called cultural exemption clause. Yeah, like Canada is in any sort of position to walk away from a trade deal with our biggest trading partner. Man, even so, our virtue-signaling PM apparently likes to play Russian roulette, even when every chamber in the gun is loaded. But in a Global News report, Justin said that Canada waiving the exemption for cultural industries would be tantamount to giving up Canadian sovereignty and identity. So in addition to supply management being off the table, we've got to keep those sacred cows known as the dairy farmers happy. A cultural exemption clause has been added to the list of demands for a trade deal, including, of course, provisions regarding gender and Indigenous rights, as well as something that addresses climate change. What a mess. What a kook. At the end of the day, the cultural exemption applies to such industries as publishing, broadcasting, and other media entities, all of which means American companies are not allowed to purchase Canadian radio and TV stations, even though this proviso does not work in reverse, given that Canadian companies are free to purchase American media properties. The argument for Canuck cultural protection is that Canada is the proverbial mouse living in the shadow of the elephant, and we need special rules pertaining to Canadian media outlets in order to prevent cultural assimilation. Forgive me if I don't buy into this argument, because based on bitter experience, I discovered that these protectionist rules are far more political than they are cultural. Case in point, in Canada, we have a cultural regulator known as the Canadian Radio and Telecommunications Commission. The ostensible policy reason of the CRTC is to ensure broadcasters create and promote Canadian content, or CanCon as it is known. Many of the people working right here at Rebel Media, including myself and of course Rebel Media founder Ezra Levent, are refugees from the Sun News network, which permanently went off the air in 2015. Sun News was losing about $17 million per year, so in order to stem these losses, Sun News applied for a new license that would allow the channel to receive mandatory coverage. In essence, all Sun News was asking for was to be on a level playing field with other news channels. And check out the CanCon resume of Sun News. It was a network owned by a Quebec media company with its main studio based in Toronto and with bureaus right across Canada. Sun News employed nearly 200 Canadians, and its bailiwick was to tell Canadian stories to Canadian viewers. You couldn't get more Canadian unless we were to immerse ourselves in maple syrup and tattoo the maple leaf on our collective arses. But Sun News was denied a lifeline. Why? Well, the CRTC doesn't have to give reasons for its decisions, but everyone knew what the unspoken reason was. That was Sun News was a right-of-center news network, and while the CRTC has no problem whatsoever with the leftist CBC receiving a $1 billion taxpayer-funded welfare check each year, Sun News couldn't even get a license upgrade because our politics just weren't, simpatico with the rest of the media party. So bottom line, I say to hell with cultural exemptions that block American media companies investing in Canada, given that the CRTC doesn't even stay true to its own Canadian content mantra, thanks to its own inherent political bias. And if state-protected Canadian media outlets are unable to compete with American media outlets under a new deal, well, as my business analyst friend Lou Skeezes likes to say, happy capitalism, baby. For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, the Rebel has a brand new app. Please download that app and take the Rebel with you wherever you go.